The Maverick Venture Fund is a 3-semester course where students learn about venture capital. So in the first semester, we teach the fundamentals, the terminology, the relationship between the startup, entrepreneur, and the venture capital firm. In the second and third semesters, students are actually going out into the community, finding startups, finding entrepreneurs, having conversations with them about their businesses, and then bringing them into pitch. Once we hear a pitch, the students decide if this is an investment that we want to invest in, or if this is an opportunity we want to invest in, and then we negotiate what those terms are going to be. So students have an opportunity to learn not only about venture capital as a subject, and investing as a subject, but about startups, entrepreneurs, and how to grow and scale a company. And this is a hard opportunity to find, especially in the Midwest. So Maverick Venture Fund plays a few roles in the startup ecosystem of Nebraska. The first role is pre-seed investment and pre-prototype investments. So there aren't a lot of pre-seed investors in Nebraska, and that pinches off the deal flow for larger investors in startups. And so we've also played a role of trigger funding, where some of our portfolio companies have had other investments lined up without a lead investor. We've been able to play the role of lead investor and allowed startups to enable follow-on funding through other investments. Additionally, we are training students to be venture capitalists. So venture capital is a subject where it's hard to obtain experience and education in this field. And so as we teach 10 to 15 students at a time and those students graduate, we're putting educated students into our startup ecosystem that can contribute to the investing in the startup. So a lot of the startups that we invest in are pre-revenue or pre-product, and they need this startup capital to build a prototype. Additionally, we have 3 buckets of entrepreneurs in which we evaluate startups. We have student startups, alumni startups, and then community startups. Those community startups we're going to be judging at the industry standard, while the alumni and student startups, we're going to help them along the process and educate them along the way as that's needed. It's a great opportunity for students because there are not a lot of opportunities to get your foot in the door in venture capital. So like I said earlier, we're educating students in venture capital and putting them out into our startup ecosystem, which has ripple effects. And the opportunities that are presented in the Maverick Venture Fund to students are connections with startups, connections with entrepreneurs, connections with investors, and education in this niche subject of investing. If you're looking to go into investing, this is also a really good opportunity for you because you understand what makes a good investment or what makes a good company. And so as we're evaluating these deals, you're hearing conversations between these startups and Tom and the students, and you get a sense of the perspective of the startup as well as the limited partners and other investors. Furthermore, you learn details on how to evaluate a business and what makes a good startup investment opportunity. And so as we evaluate these opportunities and these investments, you're looking at different things in the team, different things in their revenue model, different things in their business model. And all these things come together to help the students understand what are the important levers within a business and how do we move and pull those levers to help grow and scale.
One of the strengths of the Maverick Venture Fund is it's very much experiential learning. So you learn by doing, which I think in business school is not always easy to do, particularly on the finance side. I think at best you're doing a small snapshot of what you might have to do in a commercial bank, venture capital organization, etc. Here you learn that there is both art and science, and inside of that it is doing it reveals a lot of the logic and common sense and just kind of way to think about problems more than it is, oh, I have to have a checklist that does this, that, and the other thing. So what is a startup? So like we're looking at big, like $1 million companies, and it's like, no. You're looking at people that are taking calls from, their kitchen table or, working in the evenings. And that I think is really revealing because I think a lot of times our students don't have a perception of what the businesses are that we conceive of as being big today were when they started. And I think it's really important to know that. I think it gives you a really good perspective. Over the course of time, we've made investments, including in companies that have gotten into Techstars and Y Combinator. We've invested in some of Omaha's most exciting companies. We've invested in a bunch of UNO graduates. When you start to think about what that looks like now at the 3-year mark, our legacy actually looks pretty good so far, but now project that forward 10 years and you're talking about something that is really the only thing in the area that's going in at that stage, at that very early stage with, $5,000, $10,000 checks. There really aren't other players in that space. So we're kind of important in the overall Omaha ecosystem. And I would say long term, our goal would be to get our checks up a little bit and be a little bit more relevant. And I think that will happen as we play bigger roles with companies that are succeeding.